It had been a month since I last saw John, and when he finally showed up, he handed me a business card for a divorce lawyer without even bothering to ask how I was doing or how I felt. He didn't seem to care. He was just there, smiling, telling me he was going to divorce a wife who didn't work and pay me $1,000 a month in alimony. He said, "Take care," with a chuckle. Standing next to him, Olivia had her arm around him, also with a smug look on her face. I didn't even hesitate. "Fine, let's divorce then," I said casually. John seemed a bit surprised, but quickly shared a smile with Olivia, clearly pleased by my response. I thought to myself, good thing John isn't much of a thinker. This makes my plan a lot easier. Once the divorce was finalized, I knew it was time to set my revenge plan in motion. I was determined to make John and Olivia regret their actions and celebrate my recovery by making them cry. My name is Sarah Wolf. I'm 47 years old, an illustrator, and a children's book author. I've always loved drawing. I had two childhood friends, John and Olivia. They were both very important to me, and John was also my husband. It all started back when I was about to leave for a different college after high school. John asked me out, and I was caught off guard. I thought he was interested in Olivia, but I couldn't say no to John, especially since I secretly liked him too. After thinking it over and talking it through with Olivia, I said yes to John's confession. Olivia was always a bit of a troublemaker. Even back in our teen years, she'd often snatch other people's boyfriends, and once they were obsessed with her, she would dump them. It caused a lot of drama, but she was still a dear friend to both John and me. Her parents were concerned about her, so John and I often spent time with her to keep an eye on her. John and I got married when we were 25, and 4 years later, Olivia brought her fiancé, Daniel, into our lives. Daniel worked at a top company and was very polite. We all got along well, and we started hanging out more during holidays and vacations, going on trips or taking long train rides together. But things started changing when Olivia got pregnant 2 years into her marriage. John and I had never planned on having kids. We had plenty of siblings, so we didn't feel the need for children. We loved kids but didn't want the responsibility of raising them. We enjoyed our freedom, traveling, and having fun. We loved seeing families with kids, but that was all. When Olivia announced her pregnancy, John's behavior began to shift. He quit smoking because Olivia couldn't stand the smell, and he even started using his vacation days to drive her to doctor's appointments. I told him, "You know, Daniel might not like the fact that you're always with Olivia." John didn't understand. "You have work, right? Olivia's our childhood friend, and she needs help. You're being heartless." "I've been helping her out, buying things, and assisting where I can, but going with her to doctor's appointments is too much," I replied. John frowned and snapped back. "Why?" "Olivia's anxious about the checkups. I can't just leave her alone." I responded, "If Olivia's anxious, Daniel should go with her. It's not your responsibility. If you keep going, it's like you're the father of her child." John got defensive. "You're not going to get pregnant, so what's the problem?" I couldn't believe it. We hardly ever fought, but suddenly, after Olivia's pregnancy, we started arguing a lot, and it didn't stop after Olivia gave birth. John began spending more time with Olivia and her baby, Amelia. Things only got worse when Amelia was about to graduate from kindergarten. One day, John was going through his closet, acting strange. "What are you doing?" I asked. "You have a meeting tomorrow." John worked in a place with a casual dress code, but client meetings required a suit. He always kept a few suits ready, but this time, they were all thrown on the bed. "I'm trying to decide what to wear for the graduation ceremony," he said. "You're going to the graduation?" I was shocked. "You're not even a parent." John defended his decision, saying, "Olivia asked me to go since Daniel couldn't make it." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "John, this is ridiculous. You're not even the father of Amelia. Why do you have to go?" John seemed upset. "You still don't trust me and Olivia?" I'm disappointed. I couldn't keep quiet anymore. "It's not about trust. It's just unreasonable for you to attend her graduation." John didn't listen. He went ahead and went to the ceremony. I ended up calling Olivia, who, to my surprise, hadn't told Daniel about the graduation at all. "Olivia, why didn't you tell Daniel about the graduation?" I asked. She seemed dismissive. "Oh, don't worry, I'll tell him after the ceremony." That's when I realized John had been playing the role of a father to Amelia at the kindergarten without Daniel knowing. It was completely selfish and disrespectful to Daniel. I tried to argue with Olivia, but she hung up on me. I felt a wave of anger wash over me. Despite everything, I still helped John prepare for the ceremony. I ironed his shirt and got him ready to go. After that, John and Olivia began hanging out even more. At first, it was once a month, then it became once a week, and eventually 3 times a week. It wasn't long before Daniel started suspecting something was going on. One evening, while John and Olivia were out, Daniel came to my house. "Sorry to visit you this late," Daniel said, "but there's something I need to show you." Daniel showed me GPS data from Olivia's car. It showed that she'd been staying at a hotel 3 times a week, all with John. It was obvious what was going on. Daniel looked at me. "What do we do about this?" "I want revenge," I said firmly. "We both deserve justice." We started to plan our revenge in secret. First, I worked hard to increase my income. I had been saving up for a while, doing housework and caring for Amelia, but my income had suffered. Daniel worked from home and would take care of Amelia when John and Olivia were out. They never suspected we knew what was going on, and we collected solid evidence. But as we gathered evidence, we found something even more shocking about Amelia. Daniel and I had to decide what to do. We didn't want to hurt Amelia, so we agreed to wait until she was older to take our revenge. Years passed, and we endured, but then, I was diagnosed with a serious illness. I would need long-term hospitalization, and even if I could still work from the hospital, it was clear my workload would be reduced. I told Daniel about my situation, and John's response was the same as always: "I'll visit you once in a while." John didn't even ask about my health or the name of my illness. It was clear to me that he no longer cared. His visits became rare, once a month, sometimes longer. After Amelia's 15th birthday, she started acting distant. She stopped visiting me every day like she used to, and neither Daniel nor I could figure out why. When we asked her, she just said, "Don't worry about it." Then, one day, John showed up at the hospital with Olivia. He handed me a divorce lawyer's business card without asking how I was. "We're divorcing," he said, "and I'll pay you $1,000 a month in alimony. Take care." Olivia stood next to him, wrapping her arm around him with a smug look. Without hesitation, I said, "Fine, let's divorce then," surprising John for a moment, but he quickly smiled at Olivia, and I knew my plan was working. Once the divorce was finalized, I began my revenge. I made sure John and Olivia would feel the weight of their actions. I started by moving hospitals and then made plans with Daniel and Amelia. It wasn't long before John started to panic. "What's going on?" John yelled at me over the phone. "Why do we have to move out?" I calmly told him. I lied to him, obviously, because that's my house. The house we lived in was actually a room I rented as a workspace when I first became a freelancer. John had never paid rent, and now, I was finally taking control of my life again. It was time to let him deal with the consequences of his betrayal. John and I were left with no clear plans, and when I asked about the new house, John's response was less than reassuring. "I don't know, maybe we'll stay in a business hotel for now," he said. As I set up the speakerphone and began working, John suddenly screamed in frustration, "Don't mess with me," but then, as if remembering something, he shifted his tone and tried to sound calm. "Well, whatever, when will you transfer the money? We're running low on cash." "Money? What are you talking about?" I replied. "Don't mess around. I told you to pay $1,000, didn't I?" I couldn't help but laugh. I don't remember agreeing to that. John's response was incoherent yelling, clearly thinking I owed him money. He sounded like he had been spending freely without considering what would happen after the divorce. "Hey, don't just stay silent. Say something," John yelled, clearly upset. "There's nothing to talk about," I answered flatly. For a moment, John was caught off guard, but he quickly started yelling again, this time even more annoyed. I responded as cheerfully as I could. "Anyway, we're basically strangers now. Don't contact me anymore. You'll hear from my lawyer." "What? Lawyer?" "Wait a minute," John said, but I hung up before he could continue. He tried calling back several times, but I ignored them, and eventually, the calls stopped. John, frustrated with my lack of response, began ignoring calls from my lawyer. It wasn't like him to be so childish, but it was clear he was trying to make life difficult for everyone involved. I couldn't help but sigh at his selfishness. A few months later, after I was temporarily discharged from the hospital, I decided to visit John's parents. When I arrived, John and Olivia were both there, looking small and nervous. John's father looked at me, clearly disappointed, and I simply said, "I just came to let you know we got divorced." John glared at me, but shrank back when his father gave him a stern look. Actually, I had a great relationship with my in-laws and had visited them often, even without John around, so I thought it was only right to share the truth with them. "Is it true that you're remarrying Olivia?" John's father asked. "Yes, it's true. Olivia, Amelia, and I are going to start over as a family," John responded. John's father was clearly taken aback by this. "What do you mean? Your real family is Sarah." "She's not my family anymore," John said coldly. John's words made his father frown, shaking his head in disbelief. John then handed me a bill from a nearby luxury hotel. "What's this?" I asked, confused. "It's the bill from the hotel we stayed at," John said, as if it was perfectly normal. Suddenly, John collapsed in frustration, and his mother gasped in shock. "I didn't raise you to be like this." John's mother seemed utterly stunned, while Olivia looked equally confused. "Why are you so angry?" "It's just that our family is changing because I'm getting married," John said, trying to justify his actions. "Plus, you'll get a grandchild, a blood-related one at that. Aren't you happy?" John's mother glanced at me and then at the rest of the family, clearly disappointed. She knew that I never wanted children, and she had always treated me like her daughter, which was something I appreciated, but I could see her hesitation now as Olivia tried to push her agenda. "Amelia will be your grandchild. You'll be happy, right?" John said. "Well, I've known her since she was a child," John's mother replied with a sigh, her voice filled with doubt. Olivia didn't seem to understand the tension in the room and continued, "But she's half John's, right?" At that moment, Amelia, who had been quietly playing on her phone in the corner, spoke up. "Enough already, it's disgusting." Everyone froze in shock as Amelia looked directly at Olivia. "My dad is the only father I consider my real father. It doesn't matter if we're related by blood, he's the only one. But you know, John was always the one to attend your school events, even when he wasn't informed of them until after they happened," Amelia continued, her voice firm. "Dad always said I was his daughter. I'm his daughter, and I'll never be yours." Amelia's words stung Olivia, and she fell silent. Amelia then came to sit beside me, her tone shifting to something softer. "I thought you would hate me when you found out, but Dad told me you wouldn't. I came here today because of him." Amelia's words seemed to calm me, and I hugged her tightly. It was clear to me that, despite the complicated situation, I cared deeply for her. After all, I had taken care of Amelia for 15 years. Olivia seemed stunned by the turn of events, but before anyone could say more, Daniel walked into the room. He had been quiet up until that point. "We knew from the start," Daniel said calmly. "Actually, we found out 10 years ago. The divorce papers are still here. Didn't notice?" Olivia seemed lost for words as Daniel continued. "Olivia is still my wife, and Amelia is still my daughter. For now, after I had transferred, I handled the cancellation of our living situation right after I submitted the divorce papers. I didn't tell John because the real estate agent knew about the situation and said they would contact him directly. Then, without warning, Daniel and Amelia disappeared, and the house was sold." Amelia looked at Olivia with a glare and then held my hand, refusing to be swayed by Olivia's words. "Well, if you want to get married, go ahead, but I'll definitely be seeking compensation for damages," I said, looking directly at Olivia. John, who had been quiet, suddenly burst out laughing. "So, you two are together, huh? Too bad though. You think Daniel can support you on his salary?" "Stop making assumptions," I replied, annoyed. "Besides, Daniel earns more than you think." John, not understanding, asked, "Olivia knows about it, huh?" "Probably a bluff," I said, shaking my head. John continued, "It's impossible for you to work with your illness. You'll just die somewhere miserably." This time, I couldn't help but laugh. John had completely misunderstood everything. "Actually, you didn't know this, but my income has increased significantly. My annual earnings are $500,000. John's eyes widened in shock, and even Olivia seemed stunned. Over the past decade, my work as a children's book author had made me very successful. I even had an anime adaptation in the works, which was bringing in a lot of income. "Liar," John protested. Want to see the proof? I pulled up my bank account screen, which clearly showed large deposits each month. Olivia was speechless as she stared at the numbers. Well, I don't have time for this, I said, but if you want to get married, go ahead. I'm definitely taking compensation for damages. John and Olivia were in disbelief, but I simply took Amelia's hand and walked out of the house, saying goodbye to my in-laws. Later, John's life took a downturn. He was caught lying about working in sales and was fired from his job. My father-in-law planned to send him to work on a fishing boat, something John hated. He reached out to me a few times, but I always let my father-in-law know, and eventually, John stopped contacting me altogether. Olivia's life also fell apart. She lost custody of Amelia to Daniel and got divorced. She struggled to get by, working multiple part-time jobs and barely scraping together enough for her living expenses. As for Amelia, she excelled in school and dreamed of studying abroad. She wanted to help translate my picture books for children around the world, which made me proud. My picture books were doing well, and with more opportunities coming my way, my health was also improving. Though I still needed to stay in the hospital, I was hopeful that I would be able to leave soon. Daniel, who had been by my side throughout it all, recently confessed his feelings and expressed a desire to remarry me when I'm better. I haven't given him an answer yet, but I'm excited about the possibility. Together with Amelia and Daniel, we look forward to a bright future. Every day, I work on my picture books, creating stories for children and hoping for the happiness that's to come.